It's from Roelof van den Broek, from his work entitled Gnosticism. He explains that the Gnostic religion is understood as a phenomenon that flourished in the great myths of the 2nd and 3rd century, which spread across the Middle East and Roman Empire, up to the Far East. Van den Broek enumerates 4 typical features of Gnosticism. 1. A distinction is made between the highest unknown God and the imperfect or plainly evil creator God, who is often identified with the God of the Bible. 2. This is often connected with an extensive description of the divine world, or pleroma, from which the essential core of human beings derives, and of a disastrous fall of a divine being, Sophia or wisdom, in this upper world. 3. As a result, humankind has become entrapped in the earthly condition of oblivion and death, from which it is saved by the revelation of Gnosis by one or more heavenly messengers. 4. Salvation is often actualized and celebrated in rituals that are performed within the Gnostic community. Or we can take the simple definition of Andrew Philip Smith from his book, John the Baptist and the Gnostics. It goes, stuff like what the ancient Gnostics used to do. I should mention that an important component of Gnosticism, and certainly Gnosis, is gratitude. And you can certainly find it aplenty in the Nag Hammadi library and Hermetic texts, in many hymns and prayers, even in the surliest Sethian gospel. The truth of this universe is horror, but this also comes with awe, for there is a knowledge of higher realities, and that something can be done to rescue the light from the darkness of mere being. There's no reason one can't hold awe and horror at the same time in one's mind, and they're probably overlapping feelings when you think about it. Let us end with the prayer of thanksgiving from the Nag Hammadi library. We give thanks to you. Every soul and heart is lifted up to you. Undisturbed name, honored with the name, quote, God, and praised with the name, quote, Father. For to everyone and everything comes the fatherly kindness and affection of love, and any teaching there may be that is sweet and plain, giving us mind, speech, and knowledge. Mind, so that we may understand you. Speech, so that we may expound you. Knowledge, so that we may know you. We rejoice, having been illuminated by your knowledge. We rejoice because you have shown us yourself. We rejoice because while we are in the body, you have made us divine through your knowledge. Happy heresies and welcome to the desert of the real. Welcome to Aeon Byte. My name is Miguel Connor and I am your Pompatus of Gnosis. That's from a Steve Miller song, by the way. And I hope you enjoyed this little intro because we are going to be talking a lot about Gnosticism today. So you get a good view for what it is. And I hope you understand that gratitude is a very important part of Gnosis. Regardless of what's happening in the world, we must have gratitude, and your mission has not changed. You must go inward, you must find your divinity, and you must light up the world with your purpose and your amazing gifts. And all of you have amazing gifts. All of you can do so many wonders. Don't ever let any archon tell you anything against this, because that is cosmic law. That's why we are here, to find out who we are and what reality is not. And I see everybody going into the chat room already. Good to see everybody. I hope everybody's having a good Friday and can have a good weekend. And as always, if you have any questions, please super chat them so that Vance can get to them, or complaints against us, whatever you want to say. We want to hear your voice. And again, all of you have a voice. All of you are Orpheus. And I'm very excited about this show. We have a very cool guest, somebody whose work is amazing, whose book was like, this is like the most Aeon Byte Freemason book I have read in all my years. He gets it. It's got astrotheology, it's got Gnosticism, it's got everything you want, symbolism, astrology. You guys need to get this book, and it's a great read, short read. I read it in one evening, and I was engaged. And the author is with us, and that is Charles Maurice Fleischhauer. Charles, thank you very much for coming on the show. You honor us.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. And it's a great honor for me to be here today. And I really appreciate that. It's the first time I'm doing a show in English and speaking to an American or international audience. I did a lot of shows on my own YouTube channel in German. And I think in the German speaking world, I'm relatively known, but not international yet. Maybe we change that today.
We should.
But I'm really excited because my English is not so good, and doing this show in English is for me like playing a sport game with a handicap. It's not so easy to explain all the stuff. It would be much easier in my mother tongue, but I give my best, and as long as I don't sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger or like a German version of Borat, I think it's okay. But if my grammar or my vocabulary or the way I pronounce things are wrong, please forgive me or just correct me. I really try my best.
All right. No,
you'll good tonight.
You'll do great. Yeah, and people in the chat, if you need something that needs to be clarified, please let us know. We'll get to it. No, you'll do great, and I think your scholarship should definitely be heard across the pond and across the country. And with us too, we've got the Moondog Vance in between the two pillars of Freemasonry. Vance, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm going to refrain from asking Charles to say, "I'll be back," right?
So I'll be back.
Oh, you did. You probably will, because this is a very interesting subject. And, I've often thought that Masonry had a lot of Gnosticism in it, and I'm looking forward to hearing about it, because all the different religions that are part of the rituals and so forth, they don't play favorites one or the other, even though Catholicism has historically been inimical to Masonry. But we're going to find out. So here we go.
Here we go. Let us go for sure. And for the audience, the book is, of course, I have this on the show notes. The book is The Gnostic Secret Doctrine of Freemasonry. And again, it's on the show notes already. So definitely check it out. It's there you go. Charles is whipping it out. And yes, it is he's got a German version and an English version. Good translation. So, well, Charles, go ahead.
No, because you mentioned the English version. At this point, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Robert Grains. That's a German author who translated my book into English. And he's known here in Germany for occult horror and weird fiction. And a collection of his stories is also being translated into English. I want to show it. It's Ossuary of Dreams.
Oh, nice.
And in my opinion, he's a little bit like a German H.P. Lovecraft.
I saw by the cover.
Maybe if you like this stuff,
as soon as you see tentacles, you're like, Lovecraft.
I really have to thank him, because he put in a lot of hard work to translate the book. And I think the translation is quite good.
Good deal. Well, we'll check it out for sure. And let's start with you, Charles. How did you become a heretic, or have you always been a heretic? Tell the audience a little bio about yourself.
A heretic? I'm not sure if I'm a heretic, but maybe yes.
You're the right religion. You're the true religion.
I think I grew up in a family where I was born. Let's begin where I was born. Mm-hmm. I'm born in Hamburg, which is the second largest city in Germany, and in the northern part of Germany. And it's that part which is Protestant, but I'm not really from a Protestant family. My father's an atheist, but my mother, she was always in esoteric traditions, and she studied astrology. So when I was a child, it was normal for us in our family to talk about astrology, about star signs and all this stuff. So my my beginning on this path was astrology. So, and later when I grew up, I was a fan of philosophy, especially of Friedrich Nietzsche. And I was also an atheist for a while, but there was always a big interest in Freemasonry. It fascinated me until the first time I heard about Freemasonry. I wanted to know what it is, and I read some books about it. But after reading these books, I didn't really know. I mean, some books were anti-Masonic books. There was World Conspiracy and all this stuff. Other books were written by Freemasons. If you read this, Freemasonry is something great. And so I didn't know what really to think about it. So when I was 25, around about 25, I contacted a lodge. So I was like, I need to speak to a Freemason. So I wrote an email to a lodge in Hamburg, and they invited me. And so after the first evening when I visited them, I decided I want to become a Freemason. And then I was in Freemasonry for a couple of years, and I was very involved in it. I did it with a lot of passion. But actually, I left the lodge after around about 8 years because about some developments in German Freemasonry or Freemasonry in the world, I think. So it's not what it used to be or what it should be or could be anymore. I was kind of disappointed, but I'm still fascinated. So after I left the lodge, a few years later, I started my YouTube channel, and all the interest and it all came back, and I did a lot of shows about Masonry, and I still got friends who are Freemasons, and I'm in contact with them. And it's not like I'm not out like in bad standing or like a traitor or something like that. I'm still very close to Freemasons. But I'm not actually a member of a lodge now. And then I wrote my first book about it, The Secret Gnostic Doctrine of Freemasonry. And I wrote a second book about the Battle of the Nations monument in Leipzig. It's a city in eastern Germany where I actually live now. It's the biggest monument in Europe. I think only in America there are bigger monuments.
Wow.
And it's for a battle during the Napoleonic Wars, because Napoleon was defeated in this battle in the city of Leipzig. And then the Germans built this monument. But what many people don't know, the architect and his inner circle of people who did it were all Freemasons. So this building is full of Masonic symbolism. And I wrote a small book about that. But this is not translated yet. And I'm not sure if that would interest people in America.
If I was there, I would want to see it. And you give tours, right? You take these people to this monument.
Yes, last year I started to do some tours. It started with a monument, and I explain all the symbolism there. And then I began to visit other places in Germany because how can I explain? I'm very patriotic, but in a very friendly way.
Right.
Not chauvinistic, not we're like better or something
Right.
like that. I love all people, all nations, but I also love my own culture and our history. So I really enjoy it to show people these historical places. And we visit cities where secret societies were active in the past, especially in the 18th century, like the Illuminati order, for example.
Right.
They really existed in Germany, and there's some places where you can visit castles or park gardens, where there are some sphinxes or pyramids or all the stuff they left. Or actually, the city of Potsdam is very interesting. Potsdam was a residential city of the Prussian kings. It's close to Berlin, and it's full of castles, palaces, and gardens. And there's one garden which was created by King Frederick William II, and he was member of a secret society of the Order of the Rosicrucians. It's hard to pronounce that in English. and German it's Rosenkreuzer, the Rosicrucians. But you heard that, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so this garden is full of symbolism, and I bring groups there and show them all this stuff and explain that. And it's a lot of fun. So and when I'm not doing a tour guide, I'm a hypnotherapist. Yeah, I do psychotherapy.
Oh,
Yeah.
busy life. Good, good. I'm glad. Yeah, if I go to Germany, you'd be one of the first person I contact. Well, Stefan too. I'd have to contact him. So to
He's a
really
good friend
see
of mine.
the magical undertones, that's what I want to see, the symbolism and all that. But before we get to your book and some of the symbolism, this was a later question, but you brought up leaving Freemasonry, and you address this in this book. What is the problem with Freemasonry? Obviously, you and I know the answer, but tell the audience, where has it lost its way? Which is kind of
That's a tough
symbolic of all
question.
of humanity.
Mm.
All of humanity suffers from this.
I think that Freemasonry, if you look at the history of Freemasonry, it began in this 17th century in Scotland and England, and then during the 18th century, it spread all over the world. And that was the golden era, the 18th century. But in that era, it was dominated by nobles, European nobles. In America, a little bit different situation because Freemasons started a revolutionary. But in Europe, Masonry was dominated by nobles. And in the 19th century, after the Napoleonic Wars, it changed. Other groups became more powerful in Masonry, and the influence of noblemen went down. And in the 20th century, I think it lost its spirit. And and you have to understand that there is not one Freemasonry. In Freemasonry are several different traditions, and Freemasonry is quite different in all the countries. So you can't really compare German Freemasonry with American Freemasonry, French Freemasonry. I know that because I traveled a little bit and I visited lodges in different countries. For example, I was in Fiji for a few months in 2016, and I visited the lodge of Fiji and recognized how different Freemasonry was there. So what I think one main problem is that it changed from a secret society which had the mission to teach knowledge, and they saved knowledge. I had a lot of knowledge from different traditions like alchemy or Kabbalah, all this stuff. It changed to kind of a gentleman's club with a beer garden. Yeah. So,
you've seen the Simpsons episode with the stonecutters?
Yeah, of course.
beer keggers.
I was surprised. For example, if you become a Freemason in Germany, you got the first degree, the apprentice degree, and after 1 or 2 years, you get the next degree, and it takes 2 or 3 years to become a master mason. So when I was in Fiji, I was talking to a brother from Australia, and he told me in Australia it's 4 weeks.
Oh,
You
wow.
become an apprentice mason, and after 4 weeks, they make you a master mason. And I asked him why so fast? You cannot learn all the stuff which is necessary. And he said, yeah, but if the people are bored and then they leave the lodge, we have to entertain them. And I was like, whoa, that's, I'm when it's about religion or esoterics, I'm very old fashioned. When it's about politics, I'm I'm anarchist. I don't know. But in questions of esoteric wisdom or knowledge, I'm very old fashioned. I didn't like that. And in German Freemasonry, it's also a problem that there is a strong influence of atheism. So by definition, you can't be a Freemason if you're atheist. You have to believe in a supreme being or God.
Right.
Because it's about an inner journey which takes you to God if you practice it right. But if you're an atheist and you don't believe in things like that, you can't be a Freemason, in my personal opinion. But in Germany, there are a lot of atheists who are in lodges, and they have the opinion it has nothing to do with God or religion, and quite foolish, I think. So it frustrated me a lot over the years. It was one of the main reasons why I had to go. But there's still brethren who are different, who understand why they are in the lodge. And I mean, Freemasonry is just one spiritual tradition in the world. There are other paths like Buddhism, or you can find it in Jewish mysticism or in Christianity. I mean, it's not like this is the only path. Yeah? You know, we say there are many paths to Rome. You say that in English too?
Yes.
Yeah,
My mom
okay.
used to say that every day.
All
Or
roads
more
lead to
like-
Rome.
Yeah, all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, all roads lead to Rome. Yeah.
And and I agree with you. I mean, even in your book, you talk about the central theme is to find God's higher name, which is, again, to have an experience, to grow. And that's what Freemasonry was at its core tenet. And of course, the Gnostic idea and Neoplatonist idea of knowledge, that transformative knowledge, that thing that makes you become a better person, gets you closer to the divine, individuated, enlightened, whatever you want to call it, but really takes you to places of potential that you couldn't have imagined. And I think that Freemasonry is just another one of those, like I said, disciplines that taps into these ancient mystery religions for the liberation, spiritual and mental liberation of the human, right?
Yes. And there's if we try to connect Freemasonry to Gnosticism, how does it work? I mean, we know about Gnosticism from two sources. One is from the 2nd century, the church fathers and what they were writing. And the other source are the Nag Hammadi scriptures, which were discovered in 1945. So between that, the 2nd century and 1945 is a big gap. Very big gap. So what is between the gap? Was there no Gnosticism? What happened? So there were some Gnostic religious groups in Europe. For example, in Bulgaria is a Bogumirs, Bogumirs, or in southern France, the Cathars. How do we call them in English?
Cathars.
Yeah, Cathars. We call them Cathara. Yeah, and probably some groups of Jewish Kabbalah are Gnostic. Maybe the Knight Templars, but we don't really exactly know what their teachings were. But in my opinion, or this is a result of my researches in Freemasonry, is that Freemasonry is also a Gnostic tradition. But they don't tell you. If you become a Freemason, and I think this is similar around the world, no matter where, they don't tell you, hey, from this day on, you are a member of a Gnostic organization, or our ritual is about Gnosticism. The word Gnosticism doesn't exist in Freemasonry. You will never hear it. But so how does Freemasonry work? Yeah, many people don't really know that. So you get initiated during rituals in degrees. It's in different steps, degrees. And each degree, it's a little bit, you can compare it with a theater. Yeah, like a role play, a little bit something like that, between a theater and a role play and what they do in church. I don't know how to explain it. But each ritual has different symbols, has different passwords, has different secrets. And when you achieve all the different degrees to the top, you learn all the stuff, but the problem is nobody is able to explain it to you. So that's the problem. You have many Masons, they have all the degrees, or they're a member for 30 years in the lodge, but they don't really know what it's all about. That's what really frustrated me during the year. So I was like, okay, I have to do my own research. And I was very lucky. I met a guy, we became close friends, but he passed away 1.5 years ago. His name was Wolfgang Stark. He was a German Freemason, and he had amazing knowledge. So he taught me the basics to really understand what Masonry is about, because he told me it's about Gnosticism. It was not my discovery. So with this knowledge I got from him, I started my own researches and wrote my book. And surprisingly, in my opinion, it's like a secret Gnostic religion. You can say that. But they don't tell you that it's Gnostic. I mean, that makes it secret, yeah? It wouldn't be secret if they tell you what it's all about. There's also a strong Kabbalistic influence and an influence on alchemy.
Yeah, that's Gnostic right there. I mean,
And
alchemy started with the Gnostic and the Hermeticists, and Kabbalah
yeah,
is just Jewish Gnosticism. So it's
yeah, and
almost
I think
obvious when you think about it just for a minute.
yeah, it is, and I think that Freemasonry, and that makes it great, is a kind of a melting pot of all these
Yeah.
traditions. Okay, and you have to imagine the situation in the 18th century. You are in the 18th century, a person, maybe a nobleman or someone who's educated, not
Yeah.
everybody is able to read and write, and you want to know more about religion, more than that what they tell you in church. So you have to research, you have to find groups that help you with that. If you're a Jew, you're maybe lucky you can join a Kabbalistic circle, but if you're not a Jew, who can teach you? So this
Right.
were the secret societies of that time. They had this knowledge. There were not books everywhere available, or books are very expensive. There was no internet. So these organizations, the Freemasonry or the Illuminati or the Rosicrucian,
Just say it in German.
You
Say
know,
it in
the
German.
Rosenkreuzer.
There you go. We get
it. they
It
had
sounds
this
cooler
knowledge.
when you say it in
And
German, right, man?
is it cooler? It's for me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's easier. It's not a problem.
No, it
Okay, I
sounds
use the
cool,
German
like
term.
esoteric.
It's also, you know, in America you have this one state, and every German who learns English at school is not able to pronounce it right. It's Massachusetts. Massachusetts.
I'm
Our tongue
American.
is not able to say it.
Hey, no, you did a good job.
What about Worcestershire sauce? I still can't pronounce it. I don't know that.
Well, we say Worcester in the town of Worcestershire is
Oh,
called
okay,
Worcester
okay.
in
Yeah, in the
Massachusetts.
United States, nobody can pronounce that sauce.
But nobody
the
says Worcester
same.
sauce, though.
Massachusetts.
I lived
Well,
in
the
Mass. for a
the
while.
Bee Gees could say Massachusetts, so they're Australian. So the Germans will get there. Awesome. Well, where were we? Yeah, you were talking about we can get into the symbol, but the as they say here in the United States, Charles, the elephant in the room, or I should say the
yeah, we say that in German too.
Oh, okay,
Elephant in
good,
the
good.
room. Yeah.
Good. Well, I should probably say the dragon-headed lion in the room, of course, is the Demiurge. And Vance and I have had these I've had emails, and that's the big question, because in Freemasonry you've got the great architect, right? God.
Yeah.
And of course that goes from Plato's architect and the Demiurge good. But in Gnosticism, the architect is seen as not less than perfect, sometimes deranged, because he gave us this strange world where we can't agree on how to say estate and the platypus and disease and death. So the Gnostics they say, well, how can Freemasonry be Gnostic? Because the architect in Gnosticism is not where you want to be. It's this God above God that you want to reach. What's your answer to that?
To make it simple, I think that what the Freemasons call the great architect is a demiurge. It's not as a transcendent deity. It's not a real God. It's a demiurge. And I can explain that if you have a look into the ritual. Mm-hmm. And the main ritual of the Freemasons is the first degree ritual. So if there's a lodge meeting, they start with the first degree. And we have to understand all these Masonic rituals are connected to the Bible. So you need to know parts of the Bible to understand the Masonic tradition. Mm-hmm. And the Masonic tradition is like an interpretation of Bible, you could say, maybe a Gnostic interpretation of it. Right. And I have here my book, and in the book, some of my thoughts are very good translated into English. So forgive me if I will read some of the sentences. It makes it easier for me. So
please do. Yeah, please do.
How does creation work? So if we have a religious point of view, the world doesn't start with a Big Bang, it starts with creation. So there must be a process between God, the real God, the transcendent God, and the creation of the matter, of the material world. How does it work? So if we think about God, the deity, in the beginning, in the real beginning, before anything else existed, then in this situation, there's only God, nothing else. Okay? And this God is something like the All One.
Mhm.
And it is omnipotent, it is omniscient, and omnipresent.
Mhm.
And this God starts of thinking, like it has a consciousness. And the only thing that God in the beginning is able to think about is God itself, because nothing else exists. God can only think about God.
Right.
I say it in very simple words, okay? It's better explained in my book.
Yeah, makes sense.
I do it the best as I can. So God thinks about itself or himself. I'm not sure if he's male or in
Right.
it's God, the deity. And in that moment, but it isn't really a moment, but because time doesn't exist in this situation. So it's more something that which is eternal. But in that situation, God thinks about himself, and then he creates an image of himself. And this image is like the image in the mirror. He mirrors himself. And this is the Demiurge, which is nearly perfectly like the God, like a copy, like a clone, if you want.
Right.
But was the only difference that it is not the God. It's the Demiurge. It's a result of the omniscient God thinking about himself, being aware of himself, of the process of consciousness. And this is, in my opinion, how creation started. Because from this, the Demiurge doesn't know that he's the Demiurge. The Demiurge thinks he's the deity, but he's
Right.
just the picture in the mirror. So, okay, there's some basic thoughts about the Demiurge. But if you look to Freemasonry, in Masonry, all is about the Solomonic Temple. This is something like the main symbol. It's about how is the temple built, when is this destroyed and rebuilt. All the rituals, they always refer to the Solomonic Temple. And in a lodge, there are directions like east, north, south, and west. And the master of the lodge, the head, who is leading the ritual, sits in the east. He has his chair. In the English tradition, they call it Solomon's chair, but they don't do it in Germany. I don't know how American Freemasons do it, but he has a seat in the east. But the east is opposite to God. Let me explain why. Because in the Solomonic Temple, there are different rooms in the temple, and one is the Holy of the Holies.
Right.
And this is where God has his place, where God sits. If he sits, you know what I mean? Symbolically, yeah. This is where we find God.
He has a butt.
So, and if you look in the Bible, in the book of Chronicles, in the second chapter, there's King Solomon is speaking, and I will read this verse. Then said Solomon, the Lord said he would dwell in the darkness. Now therefore I have built thee a house for thy dwelling, and a seat where thou shalt dwell forever. So God is according to the Bible, to the book of Chronicles, God is in the west, because the Holy of the Holiest in the temple is in the west. So in a Masonic lodge, the master mason, the master of the lodge, is sitting in the east, on the opposite. That is the place you can't be more far away from God. So who is he? Who is he? Who is he representing? And in the first degree ritual, when you become an apprentice mason, there comes a part where your eyes are covered, and they take off this cover, and you get the light. The master of the lodge gives you the light symbolically. So he is a light bringer. And the light bringer in the esoteric tradition, in the Western tradition, is Lucifer.
Right.
But it's a naive point of looking on it. If Lucifer, this is Satan, or he's only evil. He's more than that. Yeah, he's also maybe the Greek Prometheus. He's just a light bringer. He has a function in the universe. So the initiation in Freemasonry in the first degree is about the human being falling into matter. Because in the beginning of the ritual, the candidate how we call him candidate in Germany. The guy who becomes a Mason is in a dark chamber called Chamber of Reflection. So he's in the darkness, like God, who's in the Holy of the Holies in the darkness. And from that point in the darkness where he's connected to God, so basically when he starts to become a Freemason, he's there where the journey should end, at God, the real deity, symbolically. And then he falls into matter. And the deepest point in matter, the worst place where he can get is in front of the master of the lodge who gives him the light. And then he becomes a Freemason, and then step by step, Masonry is the way back to God through all the degrees, step by step. And also, if you look in the Bible, when Adam and Eve are kicked out of the paradise, they're naked in the beginning, and then when they're kicked out, they're covered in aprons. The Masons wear aprons. It's symbolically, you're like Adam and Eve out of Eden, out of the Garden of Eden. So this is just one aspect. The other aspect is, if you look into the Bible and you read how the Solomonic temple is built. King Solomon wants to build this temple for God, for the one God, maybe for Demiurge, we don't know, but he isn't able to do that. He is not able to do that. He has to call a friend, a friend of his father. A friend of his father is a King Hiram of Tyrus. King Hiram of Tyrus, he is able to build a temple, and he sends him a master builder. This master builder is called Hiram Abiv in Masonic tradition. And in the book of Hezekiel, there are some verses, some lines about this King Hiram of Tyrus. And there he is described not only as a human being, as a king, but also as a cherubim, as an angel who saw heaven, saw Jerusalem in heaven, or the temple, but he was too arrogant and was sent down to earth by God. So I explained it in my own words. Maybe I find the Bible line, but I noticed every time when I try to read King James Bible in English, it sounds terrible. So I use my own words because this is King James Bible is in this old English. I don't know how to pronounce
Right. I have to say at the end of everything.
Yeah.
We call us.
So, but the interesting thing is, the temple is built by this Trinity. King Solomon, King Hiram, and Hiram Abiv. So, but if Hiram, king of Tyrus, is a fallen angel, he could be Lucifer, symbolically, or a light bringer. So the question is, who then is Hiram Abiv, the master who builds then the temple? In my opinion, he is the light. The light bringer brings the light to King Solomon, and in a symbolical way. And with this Luciferian light, Solomon is able to build the temple. And many things in many rituals and traditions in Masonry always refer to the light. But it's not our sunlight, okay, or a light in a physical way. It's a spiritual light. It must be the Luciferian light. And in the third degree, which is one of the most important degrees in Masonry, you become a master Mason. And in this degree, it's like a role play, you can say. And the candidate who becomes a master Mason is in the role of Hiram Abiv, this builder, this constructor of the temple, and he is murdered by 3 ruffians, by 3 fellow craft Masons who kill him. And I'm not sure, I mean, this legend is one of the Masonic secrets, but you can also read it in the internet, and I'm not sure how many of our audience know this story.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's quite known, right?
Yeah, very famous.
And Hiram Abiv is killed in the temple. And it makes sense. If he is the light sent by the light bringer, and in the temple is God in the darkness, the light must die in darkness. And there's another link to the Demiurge, because the three ruffians who want to kill him for a reason. They want to know the master's word. There is a secret word called the master's word or the mason word. He knows it. It's a secret. And actually, I can spoiler this. This word is the name of God,
Right.
Tetragrammaton, and they want to know this. But he kept his oath. He doesn't tell them, so they kill him. And actually, it's like that. In my opinion, these three ruffians. Do you understand the word? Do I say it right? Yeah, the three guys. They are the Demiurge. Split it into a trinity. And the Demiurge doesn't know who he is, because the Mason word is the name of God. And he asking who. They basically ask Hiram, what's my name? They want to know the Mason word. And he doesn't tell them. He's the light. The light doesn't tell them. So he killed him, and he's buried in the temple. And I understand all the things I am telling today. They may be hard to understand. It's too much information. It sounds all weird. But if you are a Freemason, you get all these degrees after years. You have a lot of time to study all those things, to think about them, to experience the rituals. If I'm talking about that in a few minutes, it's like, that's it. But it's a secret if you're a member of a secret society, and a great experience to get to know all those things.
Yeah, it's the experience what really matters. And yes, the audience knows the symbolism of Gnosticism and Freemasonry, so it makes perfect sense. Does it make sense to you, Vance, or do you have a question for Charles?
Yeah, makes sense to me to a certain degree, at least. And I wonder if the
no pun intended.
Yeah. but I wonder if the execution of Jesus is connected with Hiram Abiff being killed. What do you think about that? Is there some sort of connection there?
Yeah, we are just in the third degree. The journey goes on. Now we come to the higher degrees. So, look, the first 3 degrees, they are in the degrees of Masonry are classified into 3 classes, and the first 3 are the Blue Lodge. And wherever you go in the world, it's quite similar. There are differences, but the third degree is nearly the same in America as in Germany, or I don't know where. But then, after that, they started different rites. For example, like the Scottish rite, the York rite, Swedish rite, German traditions, and there are hundreds of these traditions, I think. Nobody knows all of them. And they basically teach the same things, but the rituals are quite different. So you can't speak about the 5th or 6th or 7th degree like I spoke about the third degree, because the third degree is nearly everywhere the same, nearly. So the question is now on which tradition we focus. When I was a Freemason and I was in the third degree and I was asked to join a higher degree system, I joined the York Rite at first, which is also called American Rite. So I was in an American tradition. How is this possible? Because after the Second World War, when Germany was occupied by the Allies, the British and the American soldiers brought, many of them were Freemasons, and they brought their Masonic traditions to Germany. So in Germany, we have our own German Masonry, and we also additional got American and British Masonry. That is a great chance if you want to study different systems and compare them. And so I became member of this American Masonry in Germany. And it goes on with the Mark Master degree, the Mark Master. And in the ritual of the Mark Master degree, it's all about a keystone. After Hiram Abiff is killed, he left a keystone. And in the end, this keystone is, there's a ritual where you put this keystone between the 2 pillars. There are 2 pillars, which are also these pillars, Jachin and Boaz. which is the German name. I'm not sure how you call them in America. There are different versions of the name. We call them Jachin and Boaz. And this keystone is put in the middle of them. And then there is an arch between them called the Royal Arch. And this is a symbol for the zodiac. I also prepared a graphic for you. Maybe you can show that, and it's easier to explain. And
Sure. Let's
this
see
keystone, so to come back to your question, because you asked how Hiram Abiff is connected to Jesus Christ, and this keystone is a symbol for Hiram and also for Jesus.
What slide
So
is it?
Hiram Abiff, in the end, it comes out, in my opinion, he's Jesus. No, not this graphic, not that one.
Okay, tell me when to stop.
Yeah. Just go on. Not that one. Not that one. Oh, this one.
Okay.
So this one. This is a graphic from my book. A friend of mine, she's a painter. She did that work for me. I really love this graphic because with this graphic, we can understand the symbolism of the two pillars. And here is one of the points where Freemasonry is connected to astrology or astrotheology. On tracing boards, and in the British Freemasonry, they have tracing boards. In European tradition, in the European tradition, we have carpets with all the symbols. You will always find these two pillars. They are described in the Bible that they are in front of the Solomonic temple, but they do not have a roof. They are just freestanding. Like two freestanding pillars. And on the tracing boards or carpets the Masons use, you will always find them with a moon and a sun on top. So it's easy to find out that they are maybe a symbol for the polarity in the world, the male or female energy or whatever. But in my opinion, they are more, quite more. They are a symbol for the zodiac. And you have to understand how the zodiac works. In the zodiac, you have the 12 astrological signs. But in the medieval or traditional astrology, every sign has a ruler. And in older times, they knew 5 planets and 2 lights. The lights are sun and moon, and the 5 planets which were known, for example, Pluto or Uranus, are not part of this system. So you have 12 signs and 5 planets and 2 lights. So some of the signs share one planet. They have to share a planet. For example, if you look down on that, you see the symbols for, oh God, now the names of the signs in English, for Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn and Aquarius, and they share the ruler Saturn. There's also the symbol for the planet Saturn. And then it goes in 2 directions. The next one is Sagittarius, and on the other side, Pisces, and they share the planet Jupiter. Then comes Aries and Scorpion. They share the planet Mars. Then comes Libra and the bull, the cow, Taurus.
Yeah.
They share Venus. Then comes as Gemini. They have Mercury. And then on top are Cancer and Lion. And Cancer and Lion don't share a planet. They have the 2 lights. So this is basically the position of the 2 pillars. So on top of one pillar is Lion, and on the other one is Cancer, with Sun and Moon. And in the Masonic ritual, as I told you, comes a part where between both of them is a royal arch, an arch, and the keystone, which is left by Hiram Abiff, and which is also a symbol for Jesus, because in the Bible there are some parts where Jesus is described as a keystone who's thrown away, and maybe know this part. Jesus comes in the middle between them. So he's the connection between the pillars, and so he's that cosmic power, or however you want to call it, which completes the zodiac. And it's interesting because the pillars are described as in front of the temple. So the zodiac as a system is something in front of the temple, and behind that is the temple and the Holy of the Holies and the transcendent God. Was that understandable with my Borat English?
No, perfectly, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if not, please, then just ask me to explain it again or use different words. I also have a computer program, DeepL Translator, can help if a word is missing.
Yeah, we also call the keystone the capstone.
The capstone, yeah.
Capstone.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that ties into the pyramids.
Okay. In Germany, we use the word means Eckstein, that means cornerstone.
Oh, cornerstone, right.
Cornerstone, yeah. If you build a church or building in ancient times, there's always a cornerstone with a special meaning.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. Good deal. Any other for the audience? Again, for Charles, if you have any questions, please super chat them. He would be delighted to answer. And we are going on a very amazing tour of Freemasonry and its Gnostic roots. Any other question from you, Vance, or what do you think so far?
Well, yeah. This is fascinating to me. I didn't know all the never realized about that about the zodiac, about the shared planets and so forth, and the pillars. What do you think about? There's a little bit of a tiny aside. The Rosicrucians tend to be a very Masonic-like brotherhood, and they are very much into more esoteric and spiritual things that I think than modern day American Masons are. What's your viewpoint on the Rosicrucians?
They are amazing, interesting, and I will call them Rosenkreuzer. Yeah,
right. That's it.
So the Rosenkreuzer, how we call them in German, are actually a German tradition. Masonry, Freemasonry comes from Scotland. The roots are in Scotland, and it became big in England. But the Rosenkreuzer movement was in Germany, and the guy who invented this, Valentin André was his name, was round about 18 or 20 when he wrote the first Rosenkreuzer scriptures. So in these scriptures, like, I don't know the English title, it must be something like the chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz.
Yes, that's it.
That's it. We agree that there is a lot of knowledge in it. So how can a boy in the age of 18 write such a book? So probably it wasn't him, probably it was a group, and he was maybe the face for the, or then just the guy who signed his name under. We don't really know. What we know is in the southern Germany was a noble woman. I forgot her name, but we can check that out. And he was her teacher, and they did Kabbalistic studies. So the early Rosenkreuzer movement is probably close connected to Kabbalistic groups also, and to the German movement of Reformation. You know, Martin Luther, how we call him, Martin Luther, was a German guy who reformated the church, and André Valentin was part of the. He wasn't Catholic, he was a Protestant, and it became like a myth. He published his 3 books, and other guys published other books about Rosicrucianism. There are a lot of books about it. Running joke. The German who's not able to say that. So. And it was mentioned by other people in Europe who were interested in esoterics. One example is René Descartes, is a French philosopher. During the 30 Years' War, there was a 30 Years' War, it was in Germany, and he was part of the French army, and he was in Germany, and we know that he tried to find the Rosenkreuzer. He tried to find this group, didn't find them. And later, in London, there were cycles who began to study this tradition, and it's very close connected. This this string of knowledge comes from Germany, but in London, with the development of early Freemasonry and the Royal Society also, where they started modern science. And it became a big thing in Britain. I think that this movement then was quite bigger in Britain than in Germany, where it originally came from. And then the Rosenkreuzer were lost. Nobody really knows what happened to them. But in the 18th century, there was a Masonic order called the Gold and Rosenkreuzer. So the golden Rosicrucians. And Shizzle, I sound like Snoop Dogg. So, and they became a strong organization because one of the Prussian kings was member. And they did a lot of very interesting esoteric stuff, because we really know that they did, how's it called when you speak to spirits? Spiritistic meetings, yeah?
Spiritualist,
spiritualists and stuff like that, and we don't really know what exactly. And I'm doing researches on that about the Gold and Rosenkreuzer in Potsdam. That's why I visit the park there, and there's also a pyramid. We have some pyramids in Germany, small pyramids from the 18th century, built by noblemen who were all part of Masonry or Illuminati or Rosenkreuzer. So I think that there is no Masonry without the Rosenkreuzer, and opposite way is the same. It's like what was first, the chicken or the egg. I don't really know. It's very connected to each other, and there are still some Rosenkreuzer groups exists in Germany and other countries. I also had contact with groups. I have some friends who are in it, and they are very focused on Kabbalistic and alchemy.
Oh yeah, well, we have it over here in the United States. The headquarters where I used to live in San Jose. I've been there many times.
I think it's Amok, right? Amok.
Right, that's it.
Mm-hmm,
and boy, the teachings are very esoteric. I think more than most Masonic logics are. I mean, they teach you about psychokinesis and alchemy and all sorts of things.
They are still what Freemasonry was in the past, but what it isn't anymore. I give you an example. When I was in Fiji, the 3 months, and I really enjoyed it. It's a quite exotic place on the other side of the world. And I visited the lodge there. And they had a big meeting. It's called installation work. It's when one day in a year, they change the master of the lodge. It's British tradition. So it was a big thing, and they invited many brethren around the world. There were people from New Zealand, Australia, Britain, Hong Kong. And I was also there, but not because of this installation work. I was there because I was in Fiji, but I visited them. So I brought a present from Germany. Before I went to Fiji, I was in my lodge, and I asked the brethren, hey, do you have any idea what could I bring as a present? And we agreed to bring an apron, a master's apron. For us as German Masons, that's a great present. So then I was at the installation work, and all the brethren from all the world gave their present, and it was all money. They always gave money for charity, big checks. And I was me, the German guy, with an apron.
I hope they liked it.
They liked it, but it was a little bit weird. So they looked at me like, look at the German weirdo with his apron.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good example of how many lodges, I think, are immersed in what we call in Gnosticism the Heilig, right? The worldly. They're into charity and physical things as opposed to the more spiritual things. And like you were saying before, a lot of the brothers in the Masonic Lodge aren't even aware of, or very dimly aware of, the spiritual and aspects of the craft.
That's very sad. That's very sad, because Masonry still keeps so much knowledge. if you have the key to understand it. And the things I found out during my research, they are just like a few drops in the ocean. That's nothing. Yeah, that's just a few things I found out. There's so much more to discover. It's like a whole continent. Yeah, when I wrote my book, I felt like I'm like a Columbus. I discovered something, but there's so much behind it, and other people have to come after me and discover more, because it's knowledge of the world. It's wisdom of ancient traditions. We also mentioned that there is the alchemy, the Hermetic tradition, the Kabbalah, but also all the knowledge of the craft, the people who build the churches in medieval time. Yeah, so this is a spiritual geometry. Yeah, sacred geometry, divinity. That's a better term. Yeah.
Yes.
And if we look at all these roots and go back in time, back, I think we end up in ancient Egypt. It's my opinion. And before ancient Egypt, maybe in other civilizations.
I would have to. I mean, that seems to be the font of spirituality. Research shows that's where the Gnostics came out. That's where the Greek philosophers learned their mysticism and ideas. Yeah, something was going on, and then it has been passed on. I mean, from Gnosticism, again, you mentioned these groups like the Bogomils and Cathars and Kabbalists, but you had the Persian Mazdakites.
Yes.
You had the Mandeans, who might come from the Yazidi. You have all these cults that were these mystical cults. And of course, the mystery religions were also part of Gnosticism. And again, Freemasonry just seems to be another logical branch of this.
Branch. That's a good word.
Yeah. So tributary.
It's a dying branch. It's a dying branch.
Yes. Well, it happens. Hopefully it'll be revived with your knowledge. And because humanity as a whole needs to go back to the mythic, symbolic, metaphor life if we are to renew our civilization. You and I I've talked about advance a million times. So it's our best chance of survival, of innovation, of evolution.
Yes, civilization is built. It doesn't happen by itself. And the whole idea of Masons, tell me if I'm wrong, Charles, is building, right? It's building the person, building the civilization. And without that spiritual underpinning, there's no basis for the building. There's no purpose for it.
And I think if a society or culture has not a spiritual core and it loses the connection to rites and initiation, it will die. I think this is what happens to the Western world at the moment.
Yes.
And we Europeans and Americans, I name us the Western world, with maybe still strong in economy or military, but we're very weak when it's about our spiritual connection. And that doesn't work. So every society has to have a spiritual core. If you look at on America, for example, when America was founded in the 18th century, they have this District of Columbia, where your capital is.
Right.
And I did a research. I was thinking about why is it called District of Columbia? What is it all about? And I found out every nation has this goddess, this female god. Like the Germans have Germania, the Britons have Britannia, and in the case of America, it's surprisingly not Americana. But it's Columbia. She's named Columbia. So the District of Columbia is the district of a goddess to protect the country, and the Capitol has her on top. So the Capitol building is like a temple. You can interpret it in that way. So when America was founded, it was founded with a spiritual connection. And I think your founding fathers, you call them founding fathers? Yeah. They many of them were Masons or people who believed in God. But if you change things like that, a nation will not survive a long time. I think that is, for example, what makes Judaism so strong. Judaism has this connection.
And I mean, the Romans had the goddess Vesta to protect them. The Greeks had Athena. So you're right. Yeah, we go on, and certainly a spiritual core or I call it a mythic core if people are still resistant to the religion idea, but it's essential for our well-being, and we need that more. So, and also I wanted to mention the Knights Templar, because obviously on this show we've done shows, and it's more and more evidence shows how Gnostic they were, from the fact they used the seal of Abraxas, they did a baptism in the name of Sophia. Their churches are full of symbolism from the Gnostic Gospels. I mean, there's so much. What do you think about the Knights Templar?
So damn interesting. I know some scholars and researchers here in Europe who are doing researches about that. For example, a friend of mine, she lives in Vienna, and officially the Knight Templars were not very involved in Vienna or in Austria, but she found out that this is not true, and which castles were owned by Knight Templars and stuff like that. And I visited places with her. And I also know another guy from Italy. He did research in the Vatican about documents about the Knight Templars, if they were really banned by the Vatican or not. And his results are very interesting, because he's saying no, they by theological law they still exist, because the document which says that they are banned isn't true. It's a how do you call that?
Forgery?
Yes.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's amazing. Whew.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't give you all the details. I'm not very deep in this topic, but I know people who are deep in it. I talk to them a lot of times, and it's very, very interesting. And Freemasonry has an extreme strong connection to the Knight Templars, and there are different parts. There are different storylines. That's what I mean, how to explain that. The first thing is, if you go through the degrees of Freemasonry, on the top, the last degrees, they are always Templar Knight degrees. For example, here at my wall, you see this one. This is mine document that I'm a Knight Templar in the 12th degree of York Rite, and they made me Knight Templar in the end.
Wow.
I still got it. As a memory.
Where are you hiding the treasure?
Give me some.
In my heart.
There you go.
So all rites of Masonry end up with Knight Templar legends. So the legend says that when the Knight Templars, they were basically in France, the French king and the Pope killed them all. Makes the story very short. Killed Jacques de Molay, the last Grandmaster, and they disappeared from history. But the Masonic legend tells us that they went to Scotland and hid themselves in Scotland. But there are also other organizations. We know, that's a historical fact, that parts of the Knight Templars went to Spain and Portugal.
The Knights of Jesus Christ,
and even the discoveries of Christopher Columbus are maybe connected to that. His ship Santa Maria, the Red Cross,
right, exactly.
all the things. So then there's a connection to Spain and Portugal. There's a connection to Scotland. There's maybe also a connection to Germany, because Germany had a similar organization like the Templars called the Teutonic Knights, or the German Knights, and they were fighting in the Baltic area, which is nowadays Lithuania and Estonia. And maybe some of the Templars joined after that the Teutonic Knights, especially in Vienna, for example, because both houses of were there in the street. Both houses of the Templars and the Teutonic Knights were in one road, so you just had to cross the road to join the other order. And this is what the Freemasonry teaches in the end, that Masonry is only like a cover up for the Knight Templars. They survived under the craft, but in fact, in the end, you're a Knight Templar. But this is not true in a scientific way. There is no evidence for that. These are legends, but maybe they are true, but somewhere must the Freemasonry come from? We don't really know the roots. We know we can find the roots back to the 17th century, but before that, and actually it's in Scotland, we don't really know where it comes from. All we know is that it's a melting pot of all esoteric traditions, but the organization at itself, the roots are in darkness. So this is one point of this story. Another one is something interesting, because I told you the Masonic ritual is all about the Solomonic temple.
No.
So it's about, first of all, it's about Hiram Abiv and how the temple is built. Then in later degrees, it's about how the temple is destroyed. And then in the highest degrees, it's not about the temple, but it's about the Knight Templars. And I found out something very interesting, which is astrotheology. Maybe you can show some graphic, and it's hard to explain. It's even hard to explain in German, because you have to understand something about astronomy, astrology.
No.
It's not that graphic.
Okay, I'm gonna go
On that one, I will say stop.
that one.
No, but this one. Okay, this is the zodiac. And now we are talking about astronomy. In astronomy, this is science. This is not esoterics. We have something called the precession. The precession, because the Earth has a movement. The Earth is going around the sun. The Earth is turning around itself. This is one day. But there's an axis, an Earth axis, which has a movement. And this is round about 25,000 years, roundabout. Some scholars, they argue if it's 23 or 4 or 5. Let's say 25.
Yeah, we call it the precession of the equinoxes.
Exactly, the precession of the equinox. Thank you.
Sure.
So the precession of the equinox goes through the circle of around about 25,000 years, which we call a Platonic year. I don't know if you call it the same. It's a Platonic year. And the equinox goes through astrological signs, like Aries or Taurus, yeah. And for each sign, it's around about 2,145 years in each sign, because in 72 years, round about 72 years, it's 1 degree, which is also interesting, because the number 72 is a sacred number which you find in different esoteric traditions. For example, in the Quran, the Muslims have the Quran, and the Quran has chapters called surah, and number 72 is called al-jinn. It's the surah about the jinn, about the spiritual beings, because the Quran is a teaching not only for humans, it's also teaching for the jinn, for the demons. So, but this is just a side information. And when in the year, now it's mathematics, in the year 391 after Christ, roundabout in that year, one circle of 25,000 years was finished. So the equinox came to the starting point, because the zodiac starts at Aries, at 0 degree Aries. So, and then it came into the sign Pisces. So we are in the era of Pisces, which is Christianity and Islam and all this religion traditions. And we are not yet in Aquarius, because some people in the esoteric bubble think we're in the age of Aquarius. But if we look on it mathematically, we are not there yet. I think we will be there in around about 170 years.
Oh my God.
At the moment, we are at, I think, 22 or 23 degree Pisces. And we need 30 degree to arrive.
Sorry, fifth dimension.
Damn, those damn hippies got it wrong again.
Yeah, the hippies got it wrong. Too much LSD, I don't know. Too much enthusiasm. So I had an idea. No, not me. This idea is from a friend of mine. He's an astrologer. His name is Raphael Hilbrand. He's an expert of ancient astrology. He's German, Spanish, half German, half Spanish. He's doing some courses in Spanish, sometimes in German. So he had the idea that this point at 391 391 after Christ, when the equinox is 0 Aries at this point, there is a mirror axis through the zodiac, and you have an event on the one side, it mirrors on the other side. And I did a little research if historical facts match with this theory. It's just a theory.
Mhm.
And there were some things, some events which are not exactly mirrorable. You can't mirror them exactly, but nearly. For example, the Crusaders and Alexander the Great, or Emperor Augustus, the first Roman emperor,
Right.
and Charlemagne, the first medieval emperor. Things like that, but it doesn't really work exactly. But it's a theory, and we are just esoteric freaks and nerds, and we do researches like that. But then I found something that really works. And this is, if you could please go one graphic back. This one. Yeah, it's okay. We have to.
Yeah, we have to move your
read it.
hands. I don't know how to change
But it's
it,
in my
sorry.
book. But the idea between that is, I will explain that. How do we know when events in the Bible, when they happened? How can we know that? The Bible gives a lot of informations about that, like this one is born 2 generations after Noah or 3 generations back. And there was a scholar, a theologist, who did a research program when things happened in the Bible according to the Bible. So you get years. And they have nothing to do with archaeology or historical sciences. It's just what the Bible says. And in the Bible, there's a period called the Babylonian exile of the Jews.
Right.
The Babylonians conquered Jerusalem, and they took the Jews to Babylon in captivity. Then later comes the king of Persia. He conquers Babylon. He allows them to go back to Jerusalem. That's the story. Maybe we know that. We all know them. I don't know. And the interesting thing is, according to the research that this dude did, we have the numbers that in 578 before Christ, the Babylonian captivity started, and it ended in 517 before Christ. And if you mirror that on the mirror axis, at this point, 0 degree areas, round about in the year 391, 95, yeah, there's a little orbis, you get exactly, if you mirror that mathematically exactly, the dates when the Catholic Church, the popes, were forced to go to Avignon. There is in medieval time a period where the French king becomes very powerful, and he forces the pope to leave Rome and go to Avignon. And 7 popes, also interesting, 7 is a symbolical number, are then in Avignon.
Yeah.
And they are there for 80 years. The same period like the Jews were in Babylon. And the Catholic Church, they call it the Babylonian captivity of the church. This is actually how they call it, this period of time. And it's exactly a mirror at 0 degree to the captivity of the Jews. And but if you look in the mirror, everything, the sides change. You understand that, yeah? It's not
right. No, it makes sense.
So it begins with this period begins with the Templar trials, when they destroy the order of the Knight Templars. So, and this is connected by this mirror line to the destroying of the Jerusalem temple in ancient times. I hope I am able to explain that in English so that you can understand it. Even when I explain it in German, not everyone can follow me, because this is really hot nerd stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But that but that makes a link, because Freemasonry is all about the ancient times and the first and the second temple and the Knight Templars. And I was always thinking about, okay, but how is it connected? There's a big gap between that. And nobody says that the Knight Templars must be connected to ancient Jews. But from this astrotheological point of view, and if you understand this research, it could make sense. It might be that it makes sense. And I'm not here to tell you I know the truth, I found all things out, but I'm just I'm just a person who has theories and does research and just try to find out interesting stuff. Yeah. If
Yeah,
this
nothing
is a
wrong.
final truth, or maybe this is wrong, but prove it. Yeah, our audience. Yeah, there are many intelligent people, I think, and who are in this topic. So prove it.
Exactly. No, nothing wrong with fierce speculation. That's what these groups do, and you throw out the data there. It's very important for sure. Yeah, awesome. Well, we probably have another 15 minutes because I realize I have to do stuff with the kiddies. But what else do you want to show your video? You want to talk a little bit more about symbolism, Charles? What's
We
on your
could, if
mind? Or
it's
what's your?
possible, we could watch the video.
I
It's a
will do my.
small video of one of my tours. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes.
All
There was a guy who was filming, and you can see the Battle of the Nations monument in the movie. In
right,
this
I'll try
small
it. Let me know, Vince, how the sound is. I think last time, I mean, obviously, StreamYard has gotten much better, but let's see how the sound is. At least we can see the videos as Charles did. All
Okay,
right, can anybody see this? Good. I'm going to turn it on.
there it is.
Ah, cool. Yeah, this is it.
Wow, that's the monument? How
Yeah.
tall is it?
91 meters.
Okay.
Don't-
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, this is Archangel Michael. That's me.
Oh, wow.
Well, it was a cool day. Bad weather. Typical German weather. Yeah, this was a small group. On other days where there was 30 people sometimes. I think this was just a few. Do you know this movies, Hollywood movies, The Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the newest one of them. Yeah, it's a trilogy, but there's a new one. I think it came out last year. And some scenes of that movie were filmed in the monument
Oh, wow.
in Germany. Yeah, they used it as a, I don't know, a temple or something. And
Yeah, that is symbolical. So all
Very
this
symbolical.
allegedly because they defeated Napoleon.
Now this is of the official.
The official
version.
narrative.
And that's the official narrative, but I really don't agree with it. And I mean, when I'm there as a group, I'm talking about it 3 hours, 1, 2, or 3 hours. There's so much to explain and to see. It's full of symbolism, Masonic symbolism. And yeah, for example, what you see here is a third degree temple. Yeah,
Oh, wow. God, it's amazing.
yeah.
It's like, why can't people build shit like this today? They just don't. Like somebody, Christina in the chat, do you do your tours in English if you get an American?
Me?
Yeah.
I would love to do it in English. It didn't happen yet. All the people that came were Germans or from Switzerland or from Austria.
Right.
But I would love to do it in English. Yeah, it would be a great honor for me because I love to show people all these places and things like that. Yeah, this is the grave of the architect who built it, and also his grave is full of Masonic symbolism, and I explain it here. Yeah, it would be a lot of fun for me to do this with Americans or English-speaking people.
I thought
What
I
an
saw the two
amazing
pillars
one.
too. You guys walked through the two pillars and the arch.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see this picture is interesting. You see that the building, there's a mirror in the water. Did you mention that? There's a like a lake, like water. It's not a lake. Yeah,
Right.
I guess like a pool in front of the
Yes.
building, and the building mirrors itself. Okay, and if you look into the Bible and the first book, where's this creation is described. Okay, I don't actually know it in the English Bible, but there's said that the Spirit of God is over the water.
Yeah.
So, and the building, you have to understand that the whole building, the whole monument is the spiritual world. And when there's the reflection on the water, it's the beginning of creation. So, and there are different parts of the area in front of the building, and you come from creation into matter. So, the interesting thing is they were funny guys when they built that, because in the end of the area is a road, and this road goes to the town hall. So the town hall is an absolute opposite direction to the building, and the building is a spiritual world with God. So the town hall symbolizes the deepest matter. You understand?
Temple, yeah.
Yeah.
Temple. Well, you know, the Washington Monument has the same, and the reflecting pool. It's the same thing.
So I think I never did
research
about it, but probably it could be something very similar. And in my opinion, it's connected to creation, because these pillars, or the Washington Monument is an obelisk, yeah,
yes,
or the Battle of the Nation Monument. This is a spiritual world, which is vertical, and there's also a horizontal line on the ground, which is our material world.
Yeah, I'll bet that's the same kind of setup that the you know, the people who designed Washington D.C. Intended, with the Washington Monument and the reflecting pool. And I think, isn't it what I think was it the White House is exactly the opposite of the Washington Monument? I think so.
It's possible. It would make sense.
Now I got to look it up. I'm surprised I don't know that for sure.
What I know is that the first plan for Washington D.C. was created by a French guy who was also a Freemason, and the role model for the city was a German city, Karlsruhe. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, because Karlsruhe is also a planned city by a ruler who is a Mason and full of symbolism. And the French guy who came from Europe to America, and they asked him, hey, could you make a plan for our capital? It was like, okay, who did something like that before? Okay, Karlsruhe in Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, there's so many of these. Like when I went to Portland, I was invited by the Masonic Hall there to speak, and they showed me the founder of the city of Portland and people who really created the entire state of Oregon, all Freemasons, and everything's designed in a Masonic way. So it's fascinating. You learn these things, you're like, wow, these people, they had a really big influence on the Enlightenment, Western culture. So
yes,
good to learn.
And the Enlightenment has two sides. One is this rational side, and the other side is the mystical side. And that is what many people don't know in our days, or forget, that the Enlightenment era, the 18th century, was full of mysticism. And it's, I mean, Hermetism, for example, is from the god Hermes, and he is Mercury in alchemy. Mercury, also in astrology, he is rational thinking, rational thought, but it's also connected to the spiritual knowledge. The one doesn't work without the other, and that is what modern materialistic science forget. What they have got forgotten.
True.
Agreed.
By the way, I looked it up, and the White House is opposite from the Washington Monument.
Interesting, like the town hall in Leipzig to our monument.
Exactly, but there is the reflecting pool. It doesn't go between them. It's the ellipse that goes between them. So the reflecting pool is on the opposite direction between Lincoln Memorial and the Capitol building.
Fascinating. Well, as we get to the end, I guess my last question, Charles, we're talking about being whole and all that. What do you think of women joining Freemasonry? I know they've got the Humane Ladroit. I think that's the Freemasonry. You can have men and women. Do you have a stance on it, or every time I see the pictures behind you, I think Nicolas Cage is going to come and steal all your stuff.
This one is also an interesting thing. One of my friends, here in Leipzig, he's a master stonemason. It's his real profession, stonemason. And he knows some other stonemasons, not Freemasons, really people who are working with stone in France. And they gave him this picture as a present. and it is from French stonemason tradition. But if you look closer at it, you see a lot of Masonic symbolism. But it's actually not really Masonic. But the traditions have to be so close to each other. And when you know that France was the home of Knight Templars and all the stuff, it makes it interesting, right? Women in lodges, for me, absolutely okay. Traditionally, they're not allowed to join a lodge, but there are mixed gender lodges. And if you are a Freemason, you're not allowed to go to them. They're not regular, they're irregular. But me, for example, I was also secretly a member of a Scottish Rite lodge where also women were, and they do all the same. So it would be very, I don't know, chauvinistic or old-fashioned to think women can't do these things. Of course they can. But the only problem is that I noticed is that between women and men, there's a kind of a tension or attraction. Yeah, and if you do spiritual work, and in a lodge you call each other brother and sister. Yeah, for example, one of the sisters very young and beautiful. It could be difficult for some of the older brethren to keep cool and focus on their spiritual development, which is the reason why they should be in a lodge. But I mean, this is a question of your own spiritual status, if you can handle your sexuality or not. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think women should be part of movements like that, but it's also okay if there's a group of men or women who say we want to make a lodge just for our gender. It's also okay. I think there should be male lodges, mixed lodges, female lodges. Everything's okay, in my opinion.
Same with there should be
Depends of
Wicca
the
groups just
personality.
for women. You should have these gender only organizations or sub organizations so you can work on your energies and your
don't
issues.
Forget, I mean, Freemasons wear an apron. Yeah, it covers your which part of the body does the apron cover? That's a part you should not bring in the lodge.
Maybe they have two little aprons for the female lodges for the top.
Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Awesome. Well, we are at the end. Charles, great conversation. You covered so much ground, but his book has so much more, people. So please get it. I mean, there's stuff on the symbolism of Peter and Pontius Pilate and the skull. I mean, there's a lot in his book, and he gives you the charts and everything. So you will see Freemasonry in a new way, even for you veterans out there who know your stuff on Freemasonry, and you'll be very surprised, and hopefully your mind will be renewed. So, Charles, I have the link for your book. Where else would you like to send people? What websites and to find more of your stuff, your content?
You got. I think I sent it you by mail some links. Just you just could add them. I have a big YouTube channel with more than 50,000 followers, but it's all in German. So there are more than 200 videos with me, interviews, things very similar to the work that you do, Miguel. Very similar, actually, but in German. So it doesn't really make sense for you to watch it. Maybe you can watch some videos with subtitles.
Right.
There is my email address. Yeah, you can put it under the video. So if you would like to contact me, feel free to do that. You're welcome to do that. And I really would like to help building bridges between nations and people and cultures. And for me, you can't imagine how great it is to speak to two Americans, one in Chicago, the other one in California. I'm sitting here in Eastern Germany, and we're connected with our interest in esoterics. So we have the opportunity, because of technology, to make things like that happen. And it would be a great honor for me to have closer connections to America and American people in your part of the world or other English-speaking countries. Feel free to contact me. We can share knowledge, share research programs about esoteric stuff. If you want to come to Germany and see things, contact me, and probably we can organize things or make things possible. And I hope that I could show you some positive picture of Germany, because I know we are known in the world for good cars, lost wars, and bad sense of humor. That's what we are famous for. But we are also a country with a long tradition in mysticism and philosophy. And there are also beautiful and peaceful aspects in our culture, yeah. Because I know the stereotypes about the Germans, and from the Hollywood stereotypes, for example.
Yeah,
I want to see Hollywood movies about Germans. I say, oh my God, that's what they think about us. So I try my best, yeah, to show you a different side, and yeah, feel free to contact me. That's my
Awesome.
message for the world.
Excellent.
I will definitely include, and check it out. And we've done many shows on German mysticism in the last year, so it's a fertile land for the esoteric in the ancient ways. But first, I'd like to say, Vance, thanks for keeping us company on this great interview.
Oh, it was very enlightening, educational, entertaining too. And thanks, Charles. Enjoyed your erudition, as we say, the extent of your knowledge on these things, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was a great honor today to be here.
Yeah, it was great. And let's do it again on something else in the future. Let's keep the vibe going. And yes, thank you very much,
Every
Charles.
time.
Yeah, great time and a lot of fun. And for the audience, thanks for being here. Please support AM Byte in any way you can so we can keep the lights of the pleroma on. Many ways to support. And next week, we will be doing a show on the Egyptian god Anubis. So that should be another good one, because he's a popular deity that has kind of been forgotten. So let's make Anubis great again. The dog days of summer are gone, but he's around. It is still the season of the spirit. So for everyone, thanks for being here. And as I always say, write your own gospel, live your own myth. Have a good weekend and a good day.